Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second episode of the Why Not Leadership podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. I have Tyler Buffett with us today. Tyler Buffett is currently the operations manager for Buffett's Candies, the largest and best-known candy manufacturer in New Mexico. He is the third generation of Buffett's in the business and brings his experience as a former professional baseball pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds organization and as a four-year letterman on the baseball team at Oklahoma State, where he led them to the College World Series, where during their team's run to Omaha, they set a record for pitching, which culminated in back-to-back shutouts, something which had never been done before and has not been done since. Over the 10 years of playing baseball at a really high level, Tyler learned many lessons tied to profiting from failure and finding better ways to improve and get better every day. Tyler, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Dan.
This is so great. I'm excited to talk to you. You and I have known each other for a couple of years, but we haven't had a lot of really long conversations where I get to learn more about your journey and what you're doing, not only at one of my favorite candy shops in the world, Buffett's Candies. I just love Napoleon Hill. It's my favorite candy, but there's so much more to what you do, Tyler, and what your company is going through, and you're involved in some really cool projects nowadays. So I can't wait to dig in. I want to talk a little bit also about this second project that you're involved in. So you're also the co-founder of the Direction Company, a company which has put together a modernized course based on the book, The Law of Success. I want to make sure and show it to you guys, by Napoleon Hill. So the Direction Company is dedicated to helping people find their own direction in life and equipping them with the necessary tools to help them achieve their own version of success. What led you to get involved in the Direction Company, Tyler?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. One that was actually, I really felt like this was necessary to do because, like you said, I was in professional baseball. Really, I was a baseball player for the better part of my young life. I started playing when I was 10 years old and went to college for it, played at a very high level there, went and played a couple years of professional baseball for the Cincinnati Reds. And as you can imagine, it was everything that I was. I ate, slept, everything was baseball for me. And so let me think, it was 2018 was my last year of playing baseball because I started noticing I was feeling a lot of pain in my hips whenever I would go play, lift, anything like that. So working out was terrible. I got to the point where I was needing to take ibuprofen just to get out of bed in the morning. So I went to a couple doctors, and both of them, one was a Reds doctor and one was a local doctor here in Albuquerque, and they both gave me the same opinion. I had some issues going on with the bone in my hips, and the tissue was being torn apart because of that bone. And they told me I could either get a preemptive surgery and stop playing baseball, and it would probably stop the damage that was happening. I could carry out a normal life, or I could keep playing baseball, and most likely I would end up with bilateral hip replacements by the time I was 30. So looking at that, I knew I did not want hip replacements. So I had to stop playing baseball. Very shortly after that, and this all happened over the course of about a year. So I was forced to retire from baseball. I was married at the time, and shortly after I was done playing baseball, she asked me for a divorce, which was pretty terrible. It was one of the hardest things I had been through. I was thrust into the family business willingly, but still kind of didn't know what I was getting into there, and had all kinds of responsibility put on me right away. So over the course of that year, I went from being, at the top of the game in baseball and really feeling like I had everything figured out, to a year later having no idea what I was doing in life, without my best friend at the time, and no baseball, no physical activity that I could do without really hurting. So I got the 2 hip surgeries, and what ended up happening was I noticed anytime that I was in the car driving, sitting at home, doing anything where my mind was able to wander, I was getting so sad, and I would say borderline depressed, because I kept thinking about everything that was happening in the past in my life and who I used to be and everything that I had lost. To the point where I couldn't even listen to music in my car anymore, because every song that would come on would make me think of something in my past. So I had these CDs, an audio book, The Law of Success. And so I plugged that in because I figured, it can't hurt. And what I noticed by listening to these lessons was it was actually getting my mind off of the past, and it was getting me thinking back again about who I could be. Where am I going to be going with my life? And very shortly after that, and it wasn't like a one day to the next thing, but over the course of a couple months, I woke up one day and realized I wasn't thinking about everything I had lost anymore. I was thinking about what did I want to become. So my original exposure to the book was through an old baseball coach of mine who Jerry Lujan. He had signed up my family to take a in-person course with his father, Edward, who was amazing. And I had been exposed to this book. We read through it. We talked through it in a group setting. And at the time, I was still playing ball, and I didn't realize exactly how impactful this was going to be. But that's why I started leaning back on it when I was in a dark spot. So I saw Jerry on New Year's Eve of 2019, and he said, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How's it going?" And I told him, really not that great. And I kind of laid out what had happened in the last year or so, and I said, "But there is something good. I'm listening to the audiobook, The Law of Success, again. And I got to tell you, Jerry, I don't know what I would have done without this, because it's getting my mind right again. It's getting me back to thinking about my habits and thinking about the things that I need to do every day to be happy and be successful." And we started talking about it a little bit more, and he said, "That's awesome." And I told him, "Look, I've had this idea for a little while, but because of the experience that I've had in the last year with this, I feel like I have an obligation to get this out to as many people as I can, because I know there are other people like me. I know there are other people like me struggling with their own battles and their own demons." So we started talking about it, and we both felt that way of, wow, we had this amazing book, these amazing lessons, and people around us that are willing to help. There are other people that don't have this support system. So we got together a couple times over the course of the next month and decided, let's do this. We got to put this course together. So what we ended up doing was taking these lessons. I got certified through the Law of Success organization to be able to teach this. And we boiled it down into a digestible online course. And what's another funny thing about this course is my dad, he's been incredibly supportive of me doing this. But he said, "Hey, Ty, no offense, but nobody's going to care what a 26-year-old has to say about life. You need to go find some other people that have real life success and have real credibility and bring them on to talk."
Well, Tyler, I'm going to stop you there, because I've got to say this. This is really cool. You're a young person, and we know that. 26, you said, right? But you went through it within a very short amount of time. You went through 3 things that are very, very impactful. That we say, when we talk about the most impactful things that can happen to a human being, one is losing your job. for you, it wasn't just losing your job, it was losing your career and your ability to do that thing that you had done at such a high level for your entire life. I mean, since you were a tyke being coached by Jerry Lujan in Little League, all the way to being a professional baseball player for the Cincinnati Reds organization. And now you can't do that.
Yeah.
You add on top of that, you got a divorce. So this is a life-changing, life-impacting event in your life. And then I guarantee you that there was probably a move involved, because you're no longer living where the Reds had you living. So moving, losing a job, and getting a divorce, 3 very stressful events, and you went through that within a year's time. So not to argue with your dad in terms of nobody wants to hear from a 26-year-old, but you went through something very, very traumatic. And when you talk about that low place you were in, where borderline depression, you know what, let's call it what it was. You may not have been diagnosed. You were probably depressed, but you found a book and you found something that got you out of that. Yep. And then you were blessed with the connection to Edward Lujan, who is a master instructor in this. And then your family was going through this. It made such an impact for you that you said, hey, we've got to get this out to everyone else. So take us there. Now you've had a couple of meetings with Jerry, and you guys say, hey, I love what you said. It is an obligation. You felt an obligation to get this out to people, because there are probably other 26. And I will say this, there are probably some 36, 46, 56, 76-year-olds going through losing their job, losing their marriage, and having to move and feeling like, what am I going to do? I can no longer be who I was. Who am I going to be? And you mentioned that transformation from thinking about what you lost to thinking about what you could do. Yeah. So now you've had a few meetings and you've got an idea, which is where everything starts. Tell us what the next steps were.
Well, so the next steps were to, like I said, we needed to start pulling together exactly how are we going to do this, and really who are we going to go talk to. And this is where I was very blessed to be partners with Jerry in this. He had and still has a lot of the connections that we were able to call up a favor, and a lot of almost every single one of them donated their time to come and talk to us about this. But what we did is we identified who we thought really exemplified each lesson. So for example, there's a lesson on imagination, and not just daydreaming imagination, like how do you use your imagination to really, really help you achieve what you want in life, creating plans and things like that. And so right away, Jerry said, this is Bo Eason. This is Bo Eason to a T. We got to get him to talk about imagination. So, I mean, he goes through talking about seeing himself as a safety in the NFL and drawing it out when he was a little boy, and then imagining that, walking the walk, believing that he is going to make it happen even when everybody else told him not to. And he ended up as a safety in the NFL. So we went and found a bunch of people that exemplified the lesson that we were talking about that day, interviewed them, and tried to pull in modern stories, because the book is so old. We tried to pull in modern stories of credible, successful sources of how did they practice what this book is preaching.
I think you've done a great job of summarizing the journey to getting started, Tyler. There's something that you did. And by the way, just full disclosure, I just went through this course, and I will tell you that this is impactful whether you're 26 years old and you've gone through some life-changing events, or you're 54 years old and you're creating a new venture, a new company, launching a new business, or even if you're a leader and you want to be a better leader. I highly recommend the Direction Company's course. What I think that was genius that you guys did, Tyler, and I know you played a key part in it. The book is a big book. Yeah. The Law of Success is not a simple book to read. It takes some reading. There's a lot of meat to it. Your why is better way. Your how is simplify, and your what is contribute. And I can see that as we're talking, I see you finding better ways to present this material. One of those that I really enjoyed as I went through the course is you were able at the beginning, and it's a video course. We had a video, and Tyler, you would come up and you would boil down each one of those chapters to 3 key pillars, which is such a simplified thing that you did. Hey, let me boil it down. Here's the 3 things you need to know about this chapter. And then you interviewed somebody at a really high level, like Bo Eason, like Scott Mann, I mean, some amazing individuals. And then you had them talk about each of the lessons. So I saw that. How did you notice that as you were doing it, when you and Jerry and Kelly came together, that, by the way, here's what you're really good at, simplifying. It's something you probably love doing. And you went through the course and you'd listened to the book many times. What was that like in terms of, as you started working on it? How did you choose the 3 lessons? Take us through what a simplifier does, because not all of us have that gift.
Yeah. So like you said, the book is really thick and dense, and stories are woven into each chapter, and examples of what the author saw in his time. And obviously those are necessary. You need stories to be able to engage people. But we really felt like we needed to get at the essence of what each chapter was talking about, because that's what's going to be the most impactful to people, is what is the lesson? What do you need to take away from this? So early on, before we started filming anything, we did 2 things. We felt like we needed to get a interview script together. What are we going to ask these people? How are we going to get to the essence of what they've done? And we needed to develop a scorecard so that the listener could identify where are they at in life compared to that top performer. So when we dove into that, we realized that we needed to go through the book and really pull out what is he actually getting at, because he doesn't state it anywhere in there. This is what we're talking about today. He's got the title of the chapter and then a bunch of information after that. So I was tasked with going forward and going through each chapter, going through each lesson, and trying to figure that out. And what I ended up finding after 4 or 5 chapters of reading, taking notes, rereading, going through each thing, is I felt that there were 3 key components, 3 main points he was trying to hit at in every chapter. And so I talked to Jerry and Kelly, kind of shared my findings, and said, look, this is what I think he's getting at. And then I went through the rest of the book and pulled out the top 3 things that I thought he was getting at. And that ended up being the 3 pillars for the scorecard that you end up grading yourself on. So it was not an easy process. It took a couple weeks to get through that. But it was no doubt one of the more valuable things and more important things that I put my time and energy into when building this out.
You mentioned something that's really important, Tyler. I often talk about this. Simple isn't easy.
No.
Just because it's simple, simplifying takes work. Taking these robust chapters and boiling them down to the 3 pillars that you were able to do. And then what you did, I think that you and Kelly and Jerry did, that was genius, was finding speakers that could just add meat that was current to the chapters, right? Because this book was written in the early 20th century. So a lot of the examples are dated. You guys even have a disclaimer at the beginning that there's some language in the book that is definitely not PC for today's times. And you have to take it with the grain of salt because it was written at a time when that language was accepted. So now that we're here, but then you found these amazing speakers throughout your journey to talk about each of the 16 lessons. What was for you, Tyler? Which was your favorite lesson? And I'm going to say probably Bo Eason resonated with you because you're a fellow athlete. But other than the obvious one, and you can definitely talk about that one, who were some of your favorite speakers from the series?
I've been asked that question a number of times. I've been asked it by my parents. I've been asked it by friends, anybody who's going to take the course. And every single time I'm asked, it's hard to answer, because when I was in the room with these people and then rewatching their videos after we had edited all down, it's so hard for me to pick which one is my favorite. The ones that stand out, obviously, Bo Eason, Scott Mann. I think we were in the room with Scott Mann for 2 hours, and it felt like 10 minutes just listening to how smart and how successful this guy is in his field. It was amazing. I felt like I was just sitting listening to stories like a little kid listens to their grandpa. So it's hard for me to pick a favorite, in part because of each one being so amazing, but also because even though I've gone through the book a number of times and I've built out the course with Kelly and Jerry, I'm still going back. And if I'm struggling with something here at work or in my personal life, I'll still go back and identify which chapter I think is going to help me there, pull it up in my car and listen to it while I'm driving. And then all of a sudden that one's my new favorite because it's helped me again. So it's hard to pick one, but I would say, Bo, Scott Mann, Nota Begay was amazing listening to his concentration talk. I don't know. That's a tough question, Dan.
Well, we're not going to make it easy for you here, Tyler. So we want to ask these tough questions because this was such a powerful course. You guys did a great job of putting it together. And as you were talking about your favorite speakers, I was looking at the ones at the end. One of the things you did, Tyler, which I thought was genius, is you guys took the book and the first chapter is on mastermind.
Yep.
You guys moved that chapter in your course to the end. And I thought it was a great culmination to be in the room with you and Jerry. And you had, I think you had Scott Mann in there. You had Ara Sapaya in via Zoom. David Martin, who did a great job. Brian Green was there. It was such a great conversation. And you got a chance to be in the room with all of them and ask them some questions. One of the things that I noticed in those conversations, even Scott Mann, who has been incredibly successful both in his military career and the things he was able to accomplish as a special operator in the U.S. Armed Forces, and then what he's been able to do since then has been amazing. He went through a dark period. I think all of them were really good about sharing that dark period in their life. And I'm not going to give it away, but Scott was very, very, very honest and very vulnerable in how he shared what a low point he was at before he made that shift. And I think all of the speakers did a great job of sharing, hey, this is where I was before I made the shift, to say, okay, this is where I'm going. I'm going to turn this into something. I mean, Bo lost his football career and then he became a performer, right? And he put on a one-man show. Scott did the same thing, similar where he tells an amazing story. So that's not too different from what you went through. Do you have any idea, Tyler, of what was your low point? What was the point that you could say, you know what, this is rock bottom, I can go nowhere but up from here? Do you have a specific time that you said that to yourself?
I can't remember a specific, like what the date was, but I do remember vividly. There was a month-long period where, I'm either in my car driving, listening to music, or I'm at home, trying to relax and trying to get my mind off things, and watching TV or hanging out with friends. And I felt like I could not get away. I could not get my mind off of everything that I used to be. And it was a good month to month and a half where, I couldn't sleep at night because my mind was racing, and I was so down on myself. And like, imagine, like, I wasn't able to listen to any music that would come on because it would remind me of a time I was out with my friends on the baseball field. I could not watch any of the Netflix shows that I really enjoyed anymore because it would make me think of a time that I would do that with my ex-wife. I couldn't, like watching baseball with my brother, which I love to do now. I'm so glad I was able to get through it. But watching baseball with my brother or watching sports with my family, it just made me think of everything that was wrong. So really everywhere that I went, and then even just coming to work, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. So it was every facet of my life. I felt like I was either failing or lost. And there wasn't a lack of ambition. I knew I still wanted something from my life, but I didn't know what that was, and I really did not know how to make it happen. So it was trying to sleep, being up with friends, being up at work, anything like that. It was just really tough for a good month and a half before I popped in that CD.
I love the story, because our time in the wilderness is going to be different, right? And Tyler, you and I both share a connection to Jerry. I don't know if you read The War of Art.
I sure have.
Stephen Pressfield talks about we all got to spend time in the wilderness, right? And that your time in the wilderness was a month and a half, and you're fighting that resistance, right? That thing that keeps you from doing that which you're really good at. All those things you experienced, all those feelings, all those thoughts, the time you spent reflecting on who you were and who you no longer were, and then realizing, heck, you've got a whole heck of a lot of life left ahead of you. What are you going to do with it? And then putting together that plan and starting on it. And then the difference for you was popping in that CD. I got to ask this. Where did it come from? Who gave you the CD? How did the CD end up in Tyler Buffett's car? For those of you who are not from New Mexico, Tyler's business is all over the state of New Mexico, and is a former pharmaceutical rep and a former medical device rep in New Mexico. You get a lot of windshield time. So I know you had a lot of windshield time, Tyler. So, but how did that CD end up in your car?
Well, so when I was originally going through the course with my mom, with Jerry's father, Edward, I'm not a great reader, but I do a lot better when I have an audiobook. So I had purchased the book, and I went through the first couple of chapters reading it, and then I was like, I need an audiobook. And the CDs were much cheaper than buying it on audio, like Apple Audio or anything like that. So I just bought the CDs, and I would pop those into my CD player and listen to them while I was driving. And that was a lot better. But I found them back in my truck in the center console one day when I was cleaning it out. And that's what kind of sparked the idea of, look, this can't hurt. At least it's not the music that's making me sad. So that's really where it came from. I just had them in my car from being exposed to it previously.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that with me, Tyler, because, it's funny. If you saw me smiling, I remember one of my best friends. I remember this is when I was growing up, we had cassette tapes, and I remember his older cousin. We were on a golf trip once, and they were telling the story of he was at 18 or 19, and he was in the summers, he'd go work at his family's farm in Belize. And so this cousin was in charge of him, and he had broken up with a girl, and all he would do is go sit in his car and pop in a cassette and cry listening to songs. So I can imagine, Tyler, the kind of memories that, that everything just points back to. Oh man, I'm no longer able to do that. That's big, though. I can't imagine being faced with double hip replacement at the age of 30, which is what you would have faced had you continued to pitch at the level that you were pitching. What made the decision easy for you? A lot of people might say, you know what? You get to be in the show. You get to possibly go to the professional World Series. What about you? What is it in your makeup that said, you know what? I'm going to make the decision for long-term health versus short-term glory.
Yeah. So, well, one of the things that both doctors said is the current hip replacement technology, and I don't know if it's changed in the last 6 years or so, but at the time they said, look, if you get these hip replacements, they are not designed to be in a person for more than 20 to 30 years. And it makes sense, because most people who get hip replacements are not going to live for another 30 years after they get them. So they said, you being at the time, 25, 26 years old, you'll probably have to get these at 45 to 50. And then you'll probably have to get another set at 70 to 80 years old. So I could have looked at potentially needing in my life, if I went down that road, 3 different surgeries or 3 different sets of bilateral hip replacements. And that just sounded terrible. So the other way was this preemptive surgery, where they go in and fix the bone that was causing the issue and kind of stitch up all of the tissue that had been torn. And they said, if I do that, stop playing, if I never train for a marathon or get into powerlifting or anything like that, and I don't tax my hips to the level that I was, if I got this preemptive surgery, then there's a really good chance that I'll never have to get a hip replacement ever. So that's what made it easy is, okay, I could guarantee myself for 6 hip replacements, or I could stop and maybe never get a hip replacement.
Great. Thank you for walking us through that. And as I was listening to you, one of the things we haven't talked about yet, Tyler, is your why operating system. We mentioned it a little bit. We mentioned your how of simplify and how handy and how important it was in order for you to boil down the chapters to their 3 pillars. But as I listened to that story, it certainly wasn't a better way. That's not a better way to live. It certainly wasn't simple. Setting yourself up for 6 surgeries over the time of your life, that certainly wasn't going to make your life simple. And it definitely wasn't going to contribute to anyone other than perhaps you. But there was a lot of residue that was going to come from making a decision to continue playing. So let's talk about your why operating system. I happened to be there when we discovered your why of better way. You're always searching for a better way. What we know about people with the why of better way is they can't help but find better ways to do things. You're a constant innovator. You're always looking for a better way to do things. And then when you figure it out, you love to share it. And that's so evident in what you did with the direction company when you said, hey, I went through this. This is a better way to deal with those 3 losses that I had in my life. And I want to share it with people. Yeah. So better way, simplify. You use your talent to simplify as part of the book, how you contributed to the creation of the course. And then to contribute, it is blatantly obvious to me that you want to make a difference. You want to have a positive impact on the lives of others. How else has your YOS shown up for you? Better way, simplify, and contribute in your life.
I see it a lot every single day that I'm at the candy factory, working here, running this place. And it has helped me so much understand myself and how I'm going to get through the day and how I'm going to tackle different challenges. I've been able to lean on it when I know it's going to provide a good outcome. And I've also been able to reel myself back when I'm looking at it like, you know what, this is already really good. People already know us for this. I really shouldn't better weigh that over there. So knowing that about myself has definitely helped me make better decisions as a manager, as a leader, as operating this company. So and like I said, there's been some things that's been really good that I can lean into it, and there's been some things that's been really good that I pull myself away from better weighing it.
It's great self-awareness too, right? Because your tendency to want to better weigh everything, and that some things are doing just fine. Let's leave well enough alone, because you can only better weigh so many things at once, right?
Yeah. Well, like people know us for our candy, and they know us for the taste of the candy. They know us because the recipe's been the same for 65 years and they love it. And so when I've looked at operating this place and operating it more efficient, operating it better, it's been something where if I look at something that I think I want to change, I know right away the recipe and the technique on how we make the candy is off the table for me. I cannot touch that because that is what our customers want. That is what they have come to love. But is there a way to produce it in a different way that might be more efficient? Okay, I can look at that. I'm going to give myself the freedom to look at that. But the end product it has got to be the exact same. So I keep myself. I've got some right way people that are with me, and they're fantastic. They keep me in line. And I'm like, hey, I'm off of that one. I'm not going to touch that one.
Important. That is such an important thing you just brought up, Tyler. I know Kelly is a right way person, and we, those of us with better way or challenge in our operating system, need those right way people to keep us in line, to keep us, to challenge us, right? Because they create systems and processes that produce consistent, reliable results. And that's what Buffett's Candies is known. Consistency, reliability. That favorite candy of yours that you have that you bought 15 years ago, guess what? They still make it. And it still tastes just like it did the first time you tasted it. So smart of you to not mess with that part of it. But what you've done when you bring your better way into the company, into the work that you do, is find better ways to produce, better ways to improve outcomes, better ways to produce more candy to make more people happy so you can contribute to people's lives, right? And let's make it simple, right? Let's make it really simple. Here's what we offer. Go to the store. You can go to the retail store and place your orders. I'm sure, and this is a busy time of year for you guys in the holidays because everybody wants their Buffett's candy. It's a tradition for some people to give that really good candy away. So thank you for the part that you play in that, Tyler. And I have one more question for you, and it might be a couple more, but for sure, I want to ask this question. The name of the show is the Why Not Leadership Podcast. We talk here, who we want to talk to are why not leaders, people who have said, why not, at one point in their life or at many points in their lives, and they're so glad they did. What is a why not moment for you that you're so glad you said yes instead of no to? Because as I said in the pre-show, we talked about it. At the end of life, we don't regret the things we did. We regret the things we didn't do. So tell us about a time in your short but very full and eventful life that you said why not to something and you're so glad you did.
Well, I gotta say, I've got a bunch of them. I can't help myself, that. But I gotta say that the biggest one that stands out to me right now is when me and Jerry said, why not? Let's build this course. Because and I know it's impactful, and I know a lot of people are going to get a ton of value from it. But let's pretend for a minute that they don't, and nobody ever sees it, and it just disappears. I got to meet some of the most amazing people. I got to be in a room with them for hours. I got to ask them questions, and I really feel like I got to get mentored by these people for a good 2 to 3 hours each, and then go back and apply that into the course and just building it out. Let's pretend that nobody ever sees this course. I know that I got so much value from going through this process that I can say I'm so thankful I said, why not?
Well, Tyler, let me add to that because someone did see that course, and that was me. And it made such an impact on me that I said, you know what? I got to interview Tyler. I'm going to have Jerry on. I'm going to have Kelly on. And I'd like to have all three of you on to talk about this great project that you guys put together. Who is this course for, Tyler? I mean, as people are listening and they're thinking about, hey, that's something that I'm interested in learning about. Your role at the Direction Company is sales. So who should we be telling our friends? Which of our friends should we be telling about this course? At what point do they need it? I can give you my thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
Well, I would say the most important thing is it is for anybody who really wants to get better, anybody who's striving to find their direction. One of the things you'll notice when you go through this course is if you don't already have a goal, we go through that process with you. What do you want from your life? Success is different for everybody, and unless you have a goal, unless you're trying to get better, unless you're trying to make something of your life, you won't get as much out of this course as somebody who does. So I would say it is for anybody who wants to get better, who wants to have something in their life that they're growing into. So that could be a business leader, that could be somebody who's starting a business, that could be somebody who's just starting their career, or it could be somebody who's ending their career, retiring and saying, well, what do I do for the next 20 years? As long as they're looking to the future, then I would say this is for you.
I love that you brought that up, Tyler, because one of the things in your story that I heard is it took you from looking back and being regretful of what you didn't have to looking forward and being hopeful for what was ahead and got you thinking about the future and those things. That's a great answer, Tyler. What's the best way for someone to find the course, and where should they go, or who should they contact? Tell us a little bit more about where the course resides.
So you can find it at thedirectioncompany.com. All of the information to contact us is on that website. you can sign up for the course straight away right there. Or if you're like me and, I've got 4 or 5 middle managers underneath me, and if you think, hey, I think this would be great for all 5 or 6 of us to go through, or 50 of us to go through, however big your team is, then I would recommend you reach out to us, because we've got special bulk pricing on it. But if you're ready and you just want to do it for yourself, or maybe yourself and your spouse, and you think this would be important for the 2 of you to go through together, then everything that you would need is right there on the website.
Fantastic, Tyler. Here's what I will tell you. One of the things that it sparked in me is to begin a group of my own. When I looked at the way you built that mastermind portion of the course, is if you're a leader and you're looking to start your own mastermind group, if that's something that's in your future, I can't recommend any more that you should go through this course first. And this should be mandatory for everybody that's joining your group. I know it will be for my group. Tyler, I know we've had a great conversation here. What do you say we end the show on that note?
Why not?
Thank you so much for being on, Tyler. I can't wait to have Jerry and Kelly on and to let the world know about this amazing project you guys have going on. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the holiday season. I know you're going to be working hard, and I'm looking forward to stopping by the retail store and getting some candy for myself.
Can't wait to see you. Come on by.
Have a good one, Tyler.
You too.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.